India produces over 250 million tons of food grain annually. And this is more than enough to feed every single person in the country. However, in spite of this, more than 200 million people in the country sleep hungry. Every third child in India is malnourished. This makes them stunted and underweight. Malnutrition makes them 10 times more vulnerable to diseases and infection. And they often die as early as the age of 5. Hunger is not caused by too many people or too little food, but because of shamelessly unequal social and economic arrangements in our country. People do not eat not because there is no food, but because they cannot afford to buy it. Statistically, in terms of resources and infrastructure, India's numbers are big, and we are called a developing country. However, these numbers are some islands of enormous wealth that exist. The rest of the country is drowning. The alarming part is that government officials bluntly deny that hunger exists as a problem. Also, the people who can comfortably afford to buy food are indifferent towards this reality. In fact, the poverty line in India is set at 26 rupees in rural areas and 32 rupees in urban areas. In 2011, 2 students wanted to find out what it's like to be poor. They tried to live on 32 rupees a day for a few weeks, only to find out that their health was deteriorating and they were mentally crumbling. They could fortunately get back to their normal lives, but they knew that the terrible experience they had was normal for millions of people. Rice boiled with salt and haldi, wild shrubs from the forest, and paste made from bamboos and flowers, this constitutes the diet of the struggling people. What is startling is how they sustain this, mixing water and food to fill their stomachs. Women folk going hungry so that the working men can eat. These people are those who are often socially excluded. Homeless people, unorganized construction workers, loaders, porters, and those dependent on begging. Food security ideally means that all people at all times have physical and economic access to the basic food they need. So, what is being done in India today with respect to hunger? In 2001, some activists filed a case in the Supreme Court for the right to food to become a legal right in India, claiming that the government fails to prevent hunger in spite of having the means to do so. Convinced by the argument, the court passed an order implying that no state can reduce the number of food-related schemes or their coverage. They can only enhance them. The court also set up its own monitoring mechanisms to see that these schemes are being implemented appropriately. The National Food Security Bill, which aims to provide food at highly subsidized prices to more than 65% of the population, is in motion. There are many government schemes covering food distribution even in remote areas of the country. Midday meals, public distribution scheme, Antyodaya Anna Yojana are just a few examples of such schemes. However, the fact remains that the state authorities cannot be held legally responsible when a person loses his or her life because of lack of access to food. Corruption has found its way into the public distribution system. 51% of the government's food stock is lost due to leakage. This stock is sold at high prices in the market when it's meant to be subsidized. People fear that the food security bill, when passed, will give rise to further corruption at the expense of taxpayers' money. However, investments in food and nutrition will only enhance India's richest economic resource, its people. One can start by considering the wastage of food that occurs around us. Being nourished properly should be a legal right of each and every citizen. This works better if the right is universally applied instead of targeting a certain section of society. Also, currently, the shortlisted people are entitled to cereals only. Fats like edible oil and proteins like dal are required to make it a fairly balanced diet. Awareness often gives birth to the desire to act, and our aim is to spread awareness.